The hospital corridor was unusually quiet that night, the kind of silence that makes every sound feel louder than it should be. The soft beeping of monitors, the distant squeak of a cart's wheels, the low murmur of nurses exchanging shifts. Dr. Alex Morgan had just finished a 12-hour emergency shift and was already thinking about going home when the doors of the emergency room burst open. A paramedic rushed in, pushing a stretcher at full speed. On it lay a little girl, no older than 7. Her face was pale, her lips slightly blue, her chest rising in shallow, uneven breaths. One of the paramedics shouted vital signs while another squeezed an oxygen bag, trying to keep air flowing into her lungs. She collapsed at home, the paramedic said quickly. High fever, seizures, breathing difficulty. Mom says it started suddenly. Dr. Morgan didn't hesitate. Years of experience took over. Trauma room 3. Now, the team moved like a well-rehearsed orchestra. Nurses cut away the girl's clothes, attached monitors, inserted IV lines. Dr. Morgan checked her pupils, listened to her chest, and felt a familiar knot tighten in his stomach. Severe infection, possibly sepsis. Every minute mattered. What's her name? He asked. Lily, the paramedic replied. Lily Carter. All right, Lily, drive. Morgan said softly, even though she was barely conscious. You're going to be okay. We're here. They started aggressive treatment immediately, fluids, antibiotics, medication to control the seizures. The room filled with controlled urgency. Commands were given, confirmed, executed. Time seemed to stretch and compress all at once. Outside the trauma room, Lily's mother stood frozen. Her hands trembled as she clutched her coat, even though the hospital was warm. Her eyes were red, not just from crying but from something deeper, exhaustion, fear, maybe weeks or months of stress that had finally boiled over. She tried to listen through the closed doors, searching for any sound that might tell her whether her daughter was still alive. A nurse approached her gently. Ma'am, the doctors are doing everything they can. Please, try to sit down. I can't, the woman whispered. I can't sit. I have to stay awake. I have to be here when she needs me. The nurse offered her a cup of water, which the woman barely touched. Her name was Sarah Carter. She was a single mother. Lily was her world. Back inside, Lily's condition worsened before it got better. Her blood pressure dropped dangerously low, and for a moment, the heart monitor emitted a sound that made everyone's breath catch. Dr. Morgan's jaw tightened. He leaned over the small body and worked with intense focus, blocking out everything else. Come on, Lily, he murmured. Stay with us. Minutes passed. Then, slowly, the monitor stabilized. Her breathing became more regular. The seizure activity stopped. It wasn't over, but the immediate danger had passed. A quiet sigh of relief moved through the room. She's stable, a nurse said. Dr. Morgan nodded, though he knew the next few hours would still be critical. Transfer her to the ICU. Keep a close eye on her. As the team prepared Lily for transfer, Morgan finally allowed himself to step back. He removed his gloves and washed his hands, the water running red tinged into the sink. Another life pulled back from the edge, but something about this case lingered with him. He stepped out into the corridor and saw Lily's mother standing there, her eyes snapping toward him the moment she noticed his scrubs. Doctor, she asked, her voice breaking. He walked over to her. Your daughter is stable now. She had a severe infection, but we've managed to control the immediate danger. She's going to the ICU so we can monitor her closely. For a second, Sarah just stared at him, then her knees buckled, and she would have collapsed if the nurse hadn't caught her. Oh, thank God, she sobbed, covering her face with her hands. Thank you so much, Doctor. Morgan waited, giving her a moment. He had seen this reaction countless times, relief crashing over fear like a wave. But as Sarah lowered her hands, he finally really looked at her. And something stopped him cold. There was something painfully familiar about her face. The shape of her eyes. A small scar above her eyebrow. His mind raced, flipping through memories he hadn't touched in years. Sarah, he asked slowly. She looked up, confused at first. Then her eyes widened. Alex, she whispered. For a brief moment, the noise of the hospital seemed to fade away. They stared at each other, disbelief written on both their faces. Memories flooded back. High school hallways, late-night conversations, shared dreams about the future. A love that had once felt unbreakable, until life pulled them in different directions. I didn't know you worked here, Sarah said finally. I didn't know you had a daughter, Morgan replied, his voice quieter now. There was an awkward pause, heavy with unspoken history. "I'm glad it was you," Sarah said softly. "I don't know what I would have done if—" She couldn't finish the sentence. "Doctor." Morgan cleared his throat. "She's strong. She gets that from you." Sarah gave a weak smile. "You always used to say things like that." They shared a small, fragile laugh, the kind that comes when emotions are too big to hold inside. Later that night, drive. Morgan checked on Lily in the ICU. She was asleep now, tiny chest rising and falling steadily. Tubes and wires surrounded her, but her color had improved. She looked peaceful. Sarah sat beside the bed, holding Lily's hand. When she saw Dr. Morgan, she stood up. "I just wanted to say, thank you again," she said. "Not just as a patient's mother, but as someone who knows you. You saved her." He shook his head gently. "We saved her. Medicine is never a one-person job." Still, he felt the weight of her words. They talked quietly, careful not to wake Lily. Sarah told him about her life, how she worked 2 jobs, how Lily had been sick on and off for weeks but they couldn't afford to miss more workdays or doctor visits. Guilt crept into her voice as she spoke. "I should have brought her in sooner," she said, tears welling up again. "Doctor." Morgan met her gaze. "You did the best you could with what you had. Don't punish yourself." He meant it. He had seen too many parents blame themselves for things beyond their control. As the night wore on, Dr. Morgan returned to his duties, but his thoughts kept drifting back to that room. To Lily, to Sarah, to the strange way life had brought them together again under such intense circumstances. Near the end of his shift, he stopped by one last time. Lily stirred slightly, her eyes fluttering open. "Mom," she whispered. "I'm here, sweetheart," Sarah said instantly, squeezing her hand. Lily's gaze shifted, landing on Dr. Morgan. "Are you the doctor?" He smiled. "Yes. How are you feeling?" "Tired," she said honestly. "That's okay. Sleeping is part of getting better." She nodded, then smiled faintly. "Thank you for helping me." Something tightened in his chest. "You're very welcome, Lily." As he left the ICU drive, Morgan realized something important. Saving Lily's life had been his job, his duty as a doctor. But seeing Sarah again, understanding the struggles she had faced, reminded him why he chose this profession in the first place. It wasn't just about diagnoses and treatments. It was about people, about moments where science meets humanity. Weeks later, Lily was discharged from the hospital, healthy and energetic again. On the day she left, she ran down the hallway, laughing, her mother chasing after her. Dr. Morgan watched from a distance, a small smile on his face. Sometimes, saving a life does more than heal a body. Sometimes, it reopens old chapters, heals old wounds, and reminds us that even in the darkest moments, there is room for hope. Weeks passed after Lily left the hospital, but the story didn't end there. In many ways, it was only the beginning. Dr. Alex Morgan returned to his routine, long shifts, endless paperwork, sleepless nights, but something inside him had shifted. He caught himself thinking about Lily more often than he expected, not just as a patient, but as a reminder of why he became a doctor, and of a past he thought he had fully buried. One evening, after a particularly exhausting shift, Alex found himself standing outside the pediatric wing without realizing why he had walked there. Lily's room was empty now, the bed neatly made, the machine silent. He stood for a moment, staring at the spot where a small life had fought so hard to stay. He sighed and turned away. That same night, Sarah sat at their small apartment kitchen table, watching Lily color pictures of animals. The girl was full of energy again, laughing, asking endless questions, her illness already fading into memory. Sarah should have felt nothing but relief, but her mind was restless. Seeing Alex again had reopened emotions she never truly dealt with. For years, she had told herself that the past was the past. That life had simply taken them in different directions. But fate had brought them face to face in the most intense way imaginable. And he had saved her daughter's life. A few days later, Sarah found a folded piece of paper in her coat pocket. It was the hospital discharge note, and written neatly at the bottom was a phone number. "Call if Lily needs anything," it said. Alex. She stared at it for a long time. She didn't call that night, or the next, but the number stayed in her pocket, like a quiet invitation she wasn't sure she was ready to accept. 2 weeks later, Lily woke up with a fever. It wasn't high, and she was still playful, but panic gripped Sarah instantly. Memories of that terrifying night rushed back, the flashing lights, the rushing stretcher, the fear of losing everything. Sarah checked Lily's temperature again. Slightly elevated. Her hand trembled as she reached into her pocket. She hesitated only a second before dialing. Alex answered on the third ring. "Dr. Morgan, it's Sarah," she said softly. "I'm sorry to bother you." There was a brief pause, then his tone changed, gentler. "You're not bothering me. What's going on?" Sarah explained, trying to stay calm. Alex listened carefully, asking questions, guiding her through what to check and what signs to watch for. "It sounds like a mild viral fever," he said finally. "Nothing like before, but if it goes higher or she becomes lethargic, bring her in immediately." "I'll be on call tonight." Sarah exhaled, tension leaving her shoulders. "Thank you, Alex. Really, anytime," he replied, and he meant it. That call became the first of many small connections. Sometimes it was about Lily's health. Sometimes it was just a message, "She's doing great today," or a photo of Lily proudly holding a drawing she made for Dr. Alex. Slowly, cautiously, their conversations grew longer. One afternoon, Alex suggested they meet for coffee. "Just coffee," he said. "No pressure." Sarah agreed, her heart racing more than she wanted to admit. They met at a small cafe near the hospital. Lily sat between them, happily sipping juice and telling Alex all about her school and her favorite cartoon characters. "You're very serious about your stories," Alex said with a smile. "She never stops talking," Sarah said, laughing. "I like her," Lily announced proudly. "He's nice." Alex and Sarah exchanged a glance, both smiling. When Lily ran off to look at pastries, an awkward silence settled between them. "I didn't expect life to bring us back like this," Sarah said quietly. "Neither did I," Alex replied. "But I'm glad it did." Sarah looked at him, really looked at him. He looked older, more tired, but there was kindness in his eyes, the same kindness she remembered. Their past came up slowly. They talked about missed chances, misunderstandings, the dreams they once shared and the realities that pulled them apart. There was no blame, just honesty. "I was scared back then," Sarah admitted. "Scared of depending on someone. Scared of failing." "So was I," Alex said. "I thought chasing my career meant leaving everything else behind." They didn't try to fix the past. They simply acknowledged it. Over the next few months, Alex became a steady presence in their lives. He never crossed boundaries, never rushed things. He helped Lily with homework, attended her school play, and patiently listened to her endless questions about the human body. "Do hearts get tired?" Lily asked one evening. "Sometimes," Alex said, "but they're very strong." Sarah watched them from the doorway, her chest tight with emotion. One night, Lily fell asleep on the couch while watching a movie. Alex gently picked her up and carried her to bed. Sarah stood nearby, watching, a lump forming in her throat. "You're good with her," she said softly. Alex smiled. "She's easy to care about." The words lingered. A few weeks later, Lily had a follow-up appointment at the hospital. Everything looked perfect. As they were leaving, Lily suddenly stopped and looked up at Alex. "Did you save me?" she asked. Alex knelt down to her level. "I helped, but you were very brave." She thought about that, then hugged him tightly. "Thank you for not giving up on me." Alex froze for a second, then gently hugged her back. Sarah turned away, wiping tears from her eyes. That moment changed something. Later that evening, as Alex walked them to their car, Sarah finally said what had been sitting in her heart. "I don't know what the future looks like," she said, "but I know I trust you. With Lily. With us." Alex nodded slowly. "That's enough for me. We'll take it one step at a time." Life didn't suddenly become perfect. There were challenges, busy schedules, old fears resurfacing, moments of doubt. But there was also laughter, shared dinners, quiet conversations late at night. Months turned into a year. Lily grew stronger, happier. She called Alex her hero doctor, and sometimes, when she thought no one was listening, she called him almost dad. One evening, while Lily slept, Alex and Sarah sat on the balcony, watching the city lights. That night in the hospital, Sarah said, "I thought I was losing everything." Alex took her hand, and instead, "We found something." She smiled through tears. "Life is strange like that." "Yes," he said, "but sometimes, it gives second chances." Far away, in that same hospital corridor where fear once ruled, another quiet night passed. Another life was saved, another family held together by hope. And for Alex, Sarah, and Lily, the past no longer felt like a wound, but like a lesson that led them exactly where they were meant to be.